I want to play you an audio clip, and I want to switch topics here quickly because we have Senator Catherine Cortez Masto on the line. But before I bring her on, she was a part of this DNC on Monday night. I want to play you a little bit of audio. This is her talking a little bit about the whole postal service mail-in voting situation. Have a listen to this.
Nevada is not intimidated by you. America is not intimidated by you. We are united by shared values, shared history, and shared rights, including our fundamental right to vote.
And I'm so glad she said that, and we're very lucky to have her on the line right now, Senator Catherine Cortez Masto. Senator, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Good morning.
Well, Senator, it's been a long time since I spoke with you. I don't know if you're going to remember this, but it was the controversial Manny Pacquiao fight. And I remember I caught you out of one of the meetings you had, and I know there was a possible investigation into that fight but that was many years ago, Senator, when you were the Attorney General. I don't know if you remember that.
How could I not? Yes, it was an incredible issue that we had to deal with. Of course I remember that.
Yeah, that was a while ago. Well, we have a lot of issues, as you know, Senator, that we're dealing with now. I guess the first question I want to ask you is about Kamala Harris. You've worked with her. I think she's an extremely intelligent woman, and I think she would be a good vice president. Can you give me your thoughts on Kamala Harris, Joe Biden's pick as VP, and what can you tell us about her?
Yeah, I thought Joe picked a home run here with Kamala. I have known her, as you just said, as attorneys general. We worked side by side, California and Nevada. We had so many issues in common, and we really developed a relationship and a friendship through there, that working relationship. But most importantly, I saw her take a leadership role. When we were dealing with that foreclosure crisis, California was critical to assisting Nevada and Delaware and some of the smaller states in really giving us the leverage we needed to take on the banks. And she, on her own, secured $25 billion in a national settlement, and she did a lot for California. But people don't realize by having her at the table, she helped so many other states. She could have done it on her own and not included the other AGs, but that's who she was. She recognized the moment and the importance of it, and how she could have an impact across the country working with all of the AGs to take on the banks and Wall Street.
Mm-hmm. That's nice to hear, and of course we're all looking for, I think most of us at least, I am, looking forward to her speech tonight, DNC Night 3. There's been a lot of positives, I'm sure you would agree, in the last couple days with the DNC, but I want to talk to you about something that is bothering some Democrats, and it's bothering me as well. AOC, she did nothing wrong by nominating Bernie. That's a procedural thing. I get that. But do you have a problem with the fact that she didn't even mention Joe Biden? She didn't say anything about Joe Biden. We know who's running for president here, Trump. It's not Bernie Sanders. It's Joe Biden. Does it bother you at all, as a woman who's a prominent name within the Democratic Party, she doesn't even mention the Bidens?
No, because I have seen her, and she is there supporting Joe, and she has said so. I think last night was representative of the nominating process and the procedure process that plays out. So she was there to second the nomination for Bernie Sanders, and that's what she did.
All right.
But I am not concerned that she will be there for Biden. She's already said so, and she's already publicly come out in support of Joe.
And she has. You're absolutely right about that. All right, so let's talk about something, a topic that you talked about, the DNC, your speech on Monday night, and that is mail-in voting, this lawsuit that the president has filed against the state of Nevada. My opinion always stands that there is no overwhelming evidence that, anything like that is going to happen. Can you talk to me a little bit about that, the history of this state you would know when it comes to mail-in voting? And Senator, why is the president harping on this?
Well, first of all, let me just say for all the listeners out there, voting in general and voting by mail in our voting system here is safe and secure. And when I was Attorney General, saw very little voter fraud registration. The one time I can remember we saw it is somebody was testing the system and voted twice and then got arrested for doing that. So there's no data to show that there is rampant voter fraud going on. And most people don't even realize, and that's why I talked about it Monday night, in 2016, 33 million Americans voted by mail. In 2018, 31 million Americans voted by mail. 5 states have already, for years, voted by mail. and statewide. So this isn't something that is new. It is not an issue. There's not rampant voter fraud associated or affiliated with it. Here's what's happening. We're in the middle of a healthcare crisis and pandemic. We want people to stay safe and shelter in place because we don't have a vaccine and we don't have enough testing to ramp up to identify everybody who has the antibody or the symptoms. So in the middle of a health crisis, when we have an important national election going on, we should be giving people choices. You should be able to vote and stay safe at the same time. And you can do that by either choosing to mail in your ballot from home or showing up in person with a mask and social distancing. But you shouldn't have to choose between keeping yourself safe and or voting. That's outrageous. So what is happening here, and what I've watched this administration, is undermining the integrity of our election system for his own gain by calling out which is a complete lie. This idea that somehow there's going to be rampant fraud here. He's already undermining the integrity of our election process and scaring people. And the goal here for what I have watched, including what's happening with the Postmaster General and our post office, is this idea that our elections are not safe and that this president is concerned about wholesale turnout and voters coming out because he's concerned about getting reelected. And that's what it comes down to at the end of the day.
I agree with you. JD?
Senator, one major issue Nevada had during the primaries is 223 ballots were actually sent to the wrong address. How do you think that can be fixed in less than 6 months?
Well, that is an issue of our active and inactive voters, and that's nothing new. So what happens is the Secretary of State our Republican Secretary of State has talked about this. So the goal here is to identify all of our active voters so we can mail everybody a ballot. If they have been active, all that means is they haven't voted in a couple of elections, their goal is to make sure they have the correct address for them. So what they've tried to do is make sure they have the correct address for everyone. That's not always going to be the easy thing to do. And so you're always, in every election, never going to get everybody's a correct address. And particularly in Southern Nevada, you all know this. This is a transient town. People move around or move in different places quite often. And to track them and locate their addresses all the time is very difficult because people don't always say to the election officials, I've moved, so here's please send me my ballot here. So that's always going to be a challenge, and that's nothing new for Nevada, and it's nothing new for other states as well.
Senator, I want to ask you a little bit about Donald Trump before we let you go. Obviously, being a senator, there are times where you have to, interact with the president of the United States. And I talk to a lot of different people, and they all tell me different things about the president. I'm not a supporter of Donald Trump. I'm not a journalist. I'm a talk show host, and I just think he's just a really awful human being, and he says terrible things on a regular basis. Thin-skinned guy. I could go on and on. I don't want to waste your time on why I don't like the president, but can you talk to me a little bit about any interactions you've had with the president of the United States and how difficult at times he is to work with? Because my understanding is he doesn't really reach across the aisle very often.
Well, the difficulty really is you can't trust what he says.
Right.
Let me give you an example. When we were negotiating for Dreamers, and this was a couple of years ago when I first got there, and we were really trying to do something right for our Dreamers, and there was bipartisan support. We were all working through it. The president said, I love Dreamers. Let's do something. If Congress sends me a piece of legislation, I'll sign it and we'll move forward. Well, guess what? We did. The Senate came together. We compromised. It was a tough bill, but we compromised on it, and we sent it to the White House, and he torpedoed it. He not only did he not vote or sign it,
Wow.
He sent in the Secretary of Homeland Security at the time, if you remember, Nielsen,
Sure.
and she just went to all the Republicans and said, it's a horrible bill, you shouldn't even be supporting it, and just completely torpedoed it. So you cannot trust what he says. And I think that's the challenge we have in this country. I have whiplash from what he says because it's one thing and then another. He says one thing and then his actions are another, and that's just not good for this country right now, and that's why you see where we are.
I have to ask, as a woman, as a man, but as a woman, when he goes after Nancy Pelosi's dentures, when he makes statements like that, what is going through your mind as a senator?
Well, I think just in general, he bullies everybody. And I think it's just not what our president should be about. It is beneath the office of the presidency. Our presidency represents this country, both here domestically and internationally. And he should be uniting this country and representing all of us and not leaving anybody behind. What you see and what I've seen the last 3 years, and listen, I've campaigned when I was campaigning in 2016, I ran and he was running at the same time.
Right.
Nothing has changed. He is divisive. He's a bullier. He peddles fear and chaos, and nothing has changed from the time that he has campaigned to as long as he's been in office. It's the same thing that we see from him.
I guess I agree with you, sadly. This will be my last question for you. We got a minute here. What do you expect from Kamala Harris tonight, and what do you expect from Joe Biden tomorrow in their speeches?
Yeah, well, I know what we're going to see tonight, Kamala, and I'm excited is to see who she is. People are going to be introduced to her for the first time, her background and her values, her principles, and why she is going to be a great vice president for this country. We saw it last night with Joe Biden and his family. I think we're going to see the same thing, and that's why I am excited about this convention. And let me just say, the last couple of nights, I've just been really excited to see the conventions really come together and unify this country around this critical task of electing Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And most importantly, what I've seen is America. Even the roll call last night, right? That is truly who we are as a country. And I like seeing more of the individuals who represent our country and how diverse it is and who we are across this country from every state. That's who we are as Democrats, and that's who we are representing. And that's the good thing that, people talk about not being able to get in a room together, but that was one of the great things we see with this virtual convention is who we are as a country.
No question. Having so many powerful women and some women of color, I think, is a fantastic thing for everybody. At least it should be. Senator Catherine Cortez Masto, I really do appreciate your time. You do a great job representing us here in the state of Nevada, and we appreciate you coming on. I'd love to have you on again, maybe before the elections in November. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yep, thanks a lot.
That is Senator Catherine Cortez Masto, a ton of experience, former attorneys general right here.
Smart lady.
Very smart lady.
Well spoken.
And actually, I forgot to mention this with her, but we had a short time. She was mentioned as a vice presidential running mate, but she actually took her name out of contention, if you recall. And I think she could be a great vice president someday. It's not going to happen now. But down the road, this woman she has had a fantastic career. She's got an unbelievable resume.